Yeah.
if you can get someone to feel for your antagonist, like that's when you've developed a really good antagonist. When you can make people go, oh, that's the protagonist, or like, oh, that's part of who they are, that's when you know you've written a good protagonist. And not in the sense of like, where'd that come from? That was out of left field. But more of
Yeah.
like, oh, that's a character trait of this person, this character. This is a
Yeah.
trait of them that's part of who they are. Like, because it's nuanced. It's real. I
Yeah.
mean, none of us are like fully evil, fully good. Like we all have different elements in us of things we struggle with, things that we're great at, things that we are proud of, things that we're ashamed of. Like we have all these different elements to who we are as people. Why wouldn't a character, have that as well if they're supposed to represent people? Hey guys, welcome back to the Untitled Workin' Podcast. I'm Lauren, co-host of this podcast and published author, and with me today, like always,
And I'm Darcy, also published author and co-host of this podcast.
woo! Hey, we're back. Episode 2
We are
already.
back. I can't believe we're in season 2. That's so crazy.
Dang, yeah, I love it. I'm glad. I mean, I feel like some people's season 1s are like, I don't know, 70 episodes long. Ours was like 14, but it's like, it's nice to have like these seasons and like the breaks and everything, and then like be able to come back like excited.
Yeah, I totally
Yeah.
agree. It's good to have like a little bit of time to just recoup and then come back in.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yeah. I think taking breaks is really important. Letting a season have a good start and a good end, ending things well, super, super important.
Super important.
Trying to embrace like living fully, but not rushed or hurriedly.
Yes, yeah. I think that's a great way to live, for sure. Sometimes I live too fully, but
no, for real. Sometimes Kennan's like, you accomplish a lot. Like, are you tired? I'm like, yes, but having fun.
And having fun is the important part.
Yeah. Having lots of fun. Lots and lots of fun.
Yeah.
Well, before we talk about too much of the fun that we're having, do you want to kick us off with our topic for today?
Yes. So today we are going to be doing a deep dive into character development.
Woo!
Woohoo! I know we've kind of talked about it, touched base on it in season 1 a little bit. But we are pulling you guys in the middle of us fully fleshing out our characters for Unholy Vows.
Yeah. Now, as a pantser, Darcy, do you normally do a lot of character development when you're writing by yourself, or what's your process?
Okay, so truthfully, a lot of the times there's one main character that I come up with in my head, and there's like it's how do I explain this in a way that makes sense? So like going off of previous things that I've written, usually there's like a main character and generally a love interest, because I always like to throw those in, even if it's not a romance. But it's usually the main character, and I sit there and I'm kind of like, oh, okay, so this character has a story they want to tell. Who are they? And then they sort of develop within the first chapter of writing for me. That's where I get a lot of my information from them as I write. That's sort of, I've never really planned out a character in depth until after the first chapter.
Okay.
Yeah. Once the first chapter's on the page, then I'm like, okay, I know who this person is now. And then I start like thinking about them, because a lot of my stuff isn't like written down. It's up here when I'm writing something. So I like up here. I was pointing at my head for the listeners.
Yeah. Good call.
Yeah. But I spend most of my time just like thinking about the character and finding music that fits with like their kind of vibe.
Nice.
Yeah. So as a pantser, there's no planning. There's no character Bible, although you should always have a character Bible, especially if you're hoping that your book gets picked up for something one day.
Yeah. There's some really good platforms out there too. I don't have any that I could just like list off, but I've seen some more established authors especially trad published authors that have shared different resources that are available. That is basically kind of like the brain trust, the
Yes.
character Bible, the world Bible, just something that encompasses the entire project. It's like you don't have to think about and do the long math that we've had to do all day today that we've been working on for our characters and
Oh,
be like, how
man.
old are they when this happened and this happened? And then literally I'm like that meme of that kid who's doing all the math, or like the woman who's doing all the math, and you're just like, what is happening?
Yeah.
So
Uh,
those are really handy to have. So you can go back and be like, oh, is this accurate? Nope, let's fix that.
um, one that I do know of off the top of my head,
hmm
is Milanote.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I use that for Love and Murder.
Nice.
And I've been playing around with that for my novel that
Yeah.
I was working on in December.
Nice.
Um, that one's pretty cool. It's like
Okay.
boards basically, and you can like
hmm
break down like each individual character, storylines,
Nice.
scenes, stuff like
Nice.
that.
That's
So that
awesome.
one's pretty good.
That's
But
great.
yeah, but it's hard for me.
Have you started planning more now that we've been working together?
I
Yeah.
have, yeah. I will say, it's helpful, especially when you take like breaks between writing, because then you can go back and be
hmm
like, oh, that's why I did that.
Oh,
Because
there's a payoff.
yeah, because so many of my stories I'll like not touch for like months, and then I'll go back and I'm
hmm
like, where was I going with this?
No, for real. Sometimes it's just like I'll go back and read stuff in our character Bible that we actually made the character Bible for our main two characters summer of last year. And we went back today and we were doing our character development session today, and we were going through and I was reading stuff. I was like, I don't think that works anymore. Why did we choose that before? And I was like going back to the novella, and we were both referencing the novella and being like, I think this was in an earlier draft of the novella and it's not there anymore, but I gotta double check. And it's just helpful to have that there and have it listed out, because
Yes.
then you don't have to do what we've been doing for like 3 hours of being like, wait, this was there and now it's not, and quick math and then long division and then wait, what year was it? And I don't know.
Well, at least we have the book as an outline, the
We do.
novella.
Yeah. No, it's actually helpful to have the novella to go back and reference, be like, we said this, so it's gotta happen. It's already
Yeah.
established as lore. So
Yeah.
this is canon. Stick with it.
And it's really funny having established characters too in a
hmm
piece of writing already that we're expanding on, because there were multiple times when we were working earlier and we were both like, oh man,
Oh, yeah. Who was it that hit you first? That you were like,
abuela.
"Oh." Yeah.
Yeah, abuela.
It's just starting to hit us that our favorite characters from the novella, or some of our favorite characters from the novella, are in a different state now in the novel.
Yeah, which I guess was the plan.
I know, but I didn't expect to feel anything about it. I went and I
Right.
looked up something for like the dad and Kelly or whatever. We're trying to figure out the age range for Kelly and Matilda and her sister Emma, and I was like, oh man, this moment, like there's no more Kelly moments like this anymore. Like, so
And
sad.
Maria. Oh no.
Yup,
Oh man.
I
Okay. Well,
know.
not to give too
Actually,
many spoilers.
well, it's all gonna happen in the first chapter of Unholy Vows, so
That's fair. That's fair.
let's be real. Who's gonna watch this before the book's out? Probably very few
Oh
people.
no.
So then, no, I believe in our community. They're gonna come through for us.
Yeah.
They're gonna get some insider knowledge before it comes.
Yeah, we
even
are.
even your dog agrees.
Yeah, she does. She says insider knowledge. Woo.
Woo!
um oh, I was going to tell you something. Oh,
Mhm,
feedback too.
mhm,
We'll be taking into account the feedback from the novella about certain things as
mhm.
well. So if
Yeah.
any of you guys have read the novella, please feel free to hit us up about any feedback you have about it, so we can kind of
Publicly on Amazon reviews or Goodreads
please.
reviews. We
We
don't
want to
mind if you
do.
mention it.
We don't at all. We need that stuff. So that we can get better to tell you
Mhm.
guys the right stories.
Yeah, yeah. So far, they're all
Um,
5-star reviews. They all say great things. One of them was
yeah,
really like helpful critique of like great story, a couple of like typo things here or there, and I'm like, but where?
but where? Tell me.
I know, right? And I can go back
Specify.
through. Golly, I think we already said that we're
Um,
not redoing the novella.
no, no. But back on track
Oh, yeah.
for
Yeah, thank you.
character development. So character development and what it is, right? So
Yes.
that's a big thing.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can explain this. So character development is when you take your characters and you figure out the bare bones of who they are as a person. Um, are they a tidy person? Are they a messy person?
Mhm.
Do they have anything in their past with family, friends that still kind of sits really heavy in their gut?
Mhm.
Um, but it might not even be like a huge point in the story itself, but it's something that creates this character's depth.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
a lot of really good character development comes from writing things that you don't know as well, in my opinion. Um, like if you just write a character that's very similar to you, it's not a bad character, but you
Mm.
know you so well that that character can come across flat. So if you take the time to really learn these small little details about your character, it'll add that depth and the layers that you need for the character to feel more real on the page.
Yeah.
So character
Yeah,
development
definitely.
is basically exactly what it says in the on the tin. You're developing this person.
One other thing I would add to it as well is I would say, like, it's really fun to look at it as, some people say, like, take your character on a date, but it's almost like getting to know a person, but you get to make up all the
Yeah.
stuff about the person. And so it's like, if you think about, like, one of your friends or even someone that you don't like or whatever, and, like, how when you learn different pieces of them, it change like, things about their life, it changes the way you see them, even for better, for worse, or, like, it makes you more empathetic to someone that you don't like, or maybe it makes you like pause and reconsider, things about, someone that you looked up to or whatever, or it makes you appreciate your friends so much more that they've gone through these things and they're still there. It's just there's these elements of like when you get to know these characters and you build out these different things and you like decide this is who this character is, it makes telling the story so much more natural because then when you're in there and you're figuring out the
Yes.
story beats, even if you're kind of pantsing it and you're just like, oh, and then this thing happened, you could be like, oh, if this thing happened, how would someone who's, narcissistic and only thinks about themselves and wants and hedonistic and just wants like all of the pleasures of the world, how would they deal with, this situation coming about? Would they like try to get around it? Would they try to go through it? Would they throw people under the bus? What would they do? And so it just makes it more interesting and well developed, and it gives you a more natural place to walk through these different things. And instead of being like, oh, I got to figure out how to make it all naturally flow, you could be like, this situation would cause this person to do X. Did this situation naturally come out of the situation before it? Okay, if it did, great, we're gonna keep going. If it didn't, why? How do I make it flow more naturally? So, yeah, that's an element of character development too that I think is really, really helpful for the grand scheme of things. And then you don't have as many, or it's easier to work through some of the more nuanced elements that might be harder to like figure out down the road, or that might cause character inconsistencies in your story.
So that's one of the biggest reasons why it's so important to create these small depths to the characters. Because if you say you have this like really intricate scene that you're
Yeah.
writing this story around, because I know sometimes it's just a scene and you're like, this, I want to get there. You need to know exactly like how your character is going to react to things to be able to
Mhm.
get to that scene.
Yeah.
Because if you don't know the smaller things, you might end up having a character who never actually is able to get to that scene specifically because they're
Mm.
not their character traits, their development, the way that they think and see the world, it's never going to put them in the path to get to that scene.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, there's also some really great elements of like payoff, right? So it's like if you like do some character development and you're like, okay, so this will go with like, I don't know, a romance trope of like the narcissistic bachelor. I don't know. I think that's a romance trope, right? I feel like
well,
there's a lot of
the
stories.
morally gray bachelor, maybe.
We could call it gray, but I think we all know where he lands. Anyways, so like the the narcissistic cool guy that everyone's like super into who takes an interest in the female heroine or whatever or antagonist, and he's going to a party or whatever. But in the beginning of the movie, he mentions how he hates shrimp or he's allergic to shrimp or something like that. And it's a throwaway line. He's yelling at an assistant or whatever for being an idiot and fires her because she brought him a shrimp salad or whatever. And then he goes off to this party, and you can do like a callback, or you could bring it back around and tie it back in of like someone sneaks shrimp into his food, and he goes into like anaphylactic shock, and the female antagonist has to save him or whatever. Or like like something happens with that where you're taking these like little moments of like in the character development, you're like, what is my character allergic to? Is my character allergic to anything? Yes or no? If so, what is it? And that's like then it colors your story. You can do payoffs, you can do callbacks. Like it helps your audience be like, oh, that's the thing, right?
Yeah.
Like if you watch like Shaun of the Dead, for example. I have seen that one. But there's like so many different moments of payoffs, right? Like there's the
Yeah.
element of leaving the door open, and the third roommate hates that the door keeps getting left open. They all blame the one guy, and then they do these different callbacks throughout the movie to like the door being left open or the door being left ajar. And it's like, oh, it keeps happening in all these different places, and it's just this funny moment or moments because in the beginning that it's a pain point for somebody that the other
Yeah.
character isn't willing to change, and then it comes back to bite that character in the butt multiple times, and you're just
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, this is funny."
Yeah. It helps plot holes too. If you like
Yeah.
when you watch your favorite TV show, right? And the TV show's been going on for years at this point,
Mhm.
and you come up and you're like, this isn't what the character would do. Yeah,
Mhm.
because they haven't fleshed they don't remember their own fleshing out that they did of the characters, or they haven't fleshed it out in a way that makes sense to get to that plot point. They had that plot point, but they
Mhm.
never fleshed the character out enough to get to that plot point.
Right. Right.
So you've got out of character characters on their own TV show.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times, I mean, it's because it's multiple writers and they all write different episodes and everything like that. But if you have a really solid character Bible, you can
Mhm.
have all
Yeah.
these other writers come in
Yeah.
and write for the same characters.
Yeah, and I would say if you have a co-writer, it's almost, like, necessary to have a character Bible if you want something that is, like, consistent and has good continuity throughout the whole thing. But
Yeah.
as a pantser, as a natural pantser, like, how would you recommend someone else who's a pantser do character development? Because I know it can be somewhat restricting for people who like the freedom to just go through whatever, but there are also benefits of planning and thinking through all of that and having a better idea. Is there a way that, like, resonates with pantsers, you think, or how would you recommend that?
I think so. One of the ways that I've gotten around it after I've like gotten a feel for the characters for writing them a bit, I'll write scenes from that aren't gonna ever be in the book from who they
Mm,
were.
okay.
So, like, my character Odessa, in my novel, we don't really get like a lot of her childhood. She's 30 years old when the book starts, right?
Mm, mhm,
But that's 30 years to like really
yeah,
ingrain in a character of who she
mhm,
is.
yeah,
So I actually have an entire Google Doc that's just
nice.
things that happened with the person that takes care of her, her caregiver, and why
Mhm,
they've shaped her who she is, or
yeah,
things that happened with her cousin who's also in the book, and
mm,
why
yeah.
she doesn't trust her cousin. And
Mm, mhm, mhm,
um so that's a really big way that I've helped develop it is just like I love my characters so much, and as a
yeah,
pantser, they don't reveal things to me unless I'm writing sometimes.
mm, mhm,
So sitting down and writing with them,
yeah,
even if it's never going to be in the book, and it might be in the book. Like I might write a scene that all of a sudden becomes perfect for a flashback later on a plot point.
sure,
So,
yeah, yeah.
um,
Well, and I imagine too, like one thing to keep in mind is that no one ever has an emotion for no reason. So if a character doesn't trust another character, it can't be a plot device. Otherwise, everyone's going to see right through it immediately. Like there needs to be, even if it's like a throwaway line or something that's like woven into the background of it, whether that's movie or books, for whatever, like there needs to be some sort of reference to why they feel that
yeah,
emotion. Like you can't have someone just all of a sudden have a meltdown and you're like, why are you like sobbing and rolling on the floor? Like this isn't normal, like, or whatever. It's like, it doesn't
Yeah.
even have to be, like, rational, quote, unquote, for that situation. But it's like, if and I'm just pulling random stuff, so I'm not saying this is your
Yeah.
characters at all, but if, like, for your main character, if she's had 30 people in her life, stab her in the back, and so she doesn't trust anybody, like, that's a good reason right there. But if the cousin specifically has done something multiple times, then you've got all of these different experiences together that you're like, "Oh, this is a real legit reason to not trust it." You know what I'm saying? Like, it
Yeah.
adds character depth and layer and things you can play with too.
Yes, yeah, and that's super helpful, and weirdly enough, like, another thing that's, like, really helpful as a pantser is music. Like, if I
Okay,
find
yeah,
songs
yeah,
yeah, like, if I find songs that, like, feels like the character, whether it's just the sound or the lyrics or, like, all of it together,
yeah.
it really helps you, like, look into this character because it gives you an idea, like,
Mhm.
"Oh, okay,
Yeah.
so why does this song remind me of my character? What
Yeah,
about
yeah,
this
yeah.
song is something
Yeah.
that is in their core?"
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
and another really big thing too when you're writing characters and you're developing them,
Mhm.
like Lauren was saying about how, emotions have to stem from somewhere.
Mhm.
A lot of the times that top emotion isn't actually the emotion that they're even feeling.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. Yeah.
like you have to be trickle down therapy from my best friend's therapist to me now to you guys. You have to be curious.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
if your character's angry, right? Like
Mhm. Yeah.
somebody left something on the counter, and
Yeah.
it's like it doesn't happen all the time. Like their roommate doesn't like leave everything out all the time. Like it's not a common occurrence, but they're all
Mhm.
of a sudden mad because it
Mhm.
feels like it's been happening all the time.
Mhm.
Why
Yeah.
are they mad?
Yeah.
Why is this specific thing triggering that anger? And
Mhm.
then if you look under it, a lot of the times it has something to do with something that a lot of the time, I mean, with this specific scenario, it's, an insecurity around feeling like they always have to be the one that takes care of everybody, which then can
Yeah.
stem from taking care of
Yeah.
their family when they were growing up.
Right, right. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well,
it
another thing too is, like, if you don't know that your character is neat versus messy, like, that's gonna completely change the way they interact in that situation, right? Are
yeah.
they also go with the flow, or are they bullheaded? So it's like, if they're messy and bullheaded and someone says, "Hey, clean up your stuff," they're gonna be like, "You clean it up. I don't have to do what you tell me to. I can do what I want." But if they go with the flow, they'll be like, "Okay, sure," and then they never do it, right?
Yeah.
Right? Like, so it's like, this is where, like, knowing these things about your character is so helpful.
Yes, yeah, and, like, if you so, like, say you're somebody who, falls on, like, the neurodivergent scale and you wanna
Mhm.
write a character who's neurodivergent, that's gonna completely change the way they interact with the world.
Yeah.
Um, if you give like, if you don't have ADHD, but you know people who do, so you know how to write
Mhm.
it and you do the research on that character, they're gonna interact with the world completely differently than
So
somebody who
different.
doesn't have ADHD.
Yeah, for sure.
So
Definitely.
it's the small things create the depth.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, for sure. Yeah,
Um,
I think we can all think of characters that we were like, "Oh, it was so close, but it didn't do
so
it."
close.
There were so
Yeah.
many moments that were like, "This is not your character, like, this is not what you promised me in this book," like
Yeah, yeah. Well, because if you look at, like, it's a really good example. So if you look at, like, Haymitch, right?
Mm,
Um, that character is obviously fully broken down. Like, she
mm,
knows that character inside and out,
mhm,
um, because when you're given these little tidbits about Haymitch and who he is and how he
yeah.
interacts with the world, you also are sitting there and I mean, we finally have his book, right? We have his Hunger Games,
Yes!
but but during the Hunger Games with Katniss, you're intrigued by this character because
Mhm.
he doesn't necessarily do things the way you'd expect him to, but everything he does makes sense, and you know that there's a reason why it's making sense, but you don't know
Yeah.
the reason.
You know enough about who he is that you can understand where he's coming from enough to, like, justify who he is, right? Like, he's not a
Yeah,
villain. Like, he could very easily have been a villain in the Hunger Games if it was like, he's like, "I don't care about you. I'm a drunk. I'm gonna drink and not pay attention to you. I'm not gonna teach you." Like, those are all character traits of, like, someone who's not, like, being a nice person,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
But if you go, oh, we know he survived the Hunger Games, which we know causes brutal PTSD. It's the brutal murder of people your own age as a child during your formative years. You know, we know he's a drunk because of his PTSD. Like, so there's elements where you're like, oh, I know that the reason you're going through this is because you had a horrific thing happen to you. And
Yep.
now we get to see like who he was before that horrific thing and then that horrific thing. And then it adds so much. So it's like, but she didn't put all that in there, like you're saying. She only gave you like a little bit of information. Like you really don't know
Smallest
anything
bit.
else about him.
Yeah. But you know that you identify with this character, you feel deeply for this character without even knowing any of that stuff.
Right, yeah, because you know
Because
enough
she
about
knows
the
it.
world. Yeah, and
Yeah.
because she knows it, yeah.
Another example, in my opinion,
Mhm.
people might fight me on this in the comments.
Oh boy,
Jacob from Twilight is a flat character.
I don't think anyone's. Well, I guess maybe people will. I won't fight you on that.
So,
I think they're
so,
all 2D.
so I mean, most of them are, but specifically, like, Edward has more depth. He's got his traumas with being a vampire and blah, 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 whatever. But Jacob Black is a flat character because he doesn't have reasons for being the way he is. And the only reason we're given is that vampire's bad, make me wolf. Like, that's it. That's all you get. But it's this drastic change, right? He's like this sweet little puppy dog, this really kind person. And then he becomes borderline abusive to Bella. Because why? Because the wolf makes me do it? That makes it flat. The character doesn't have depth there because it doesn't make sense for who she's established him to be.
Yeah. And it's not even that your characters have to be all good either. I think we ran into this a little bit when we were doing the novella, is that too many times we gave our characters like too good of responses as opposed to like more human responses. And we're like, no, but they're a really supportive person of this other person. And it's like, no, if this other person didn't said these things, they'd be like mad.
Yeah. And like another really good example too about like knowing your characters, Booker from the novella, if you guys have read the novella. So he was added. He wasn't an original like character within the world.
Yeah.
He came in and we didn't flesh him out at all. I went Panther style on him, and he wasn't fleshed out in any way compared to, and I mean, Candace wasn't either, but she got easily fleshed out because she's a very specific niche of a character. But Booker was actually like this really horrible person.
Yeah.
But it didn't make sense because he had been friends with them for a long time. So when we went back and we were like, okay, so let's actually like really flesh out, why is Booker going to be terrible? And then he turned out not to be like this obstinate villain that he was going to be in the original draft. He just was a mama's boy. Like that was his key character trait that really just changed everything about him. He became just this stupid little guy who was babied by his mama, so he threw a temper tantrum when he didn't get what he wanted. And
don't spoil the book. You gotta go read the novella, guys.
Please go read the novella. Sorry. I should have said spoilers.
No, you're fine.
But it's an excellent example, though, like from like our two personal experiences of a character not being fleshed out and not making sense. And then when he was fleshed out, he was still an excellent plot device, but he had more to him, to the point where I've gotten texts from family members that are like, this guy sucks. And then followed up with like, I've also had texts where one family member is like, aw, this poor guy, he's like gonna get strung along. And then he has this temper tantrum, and they're like, man, he needs to grow up a lot more. No wonder why he got strung along. So he's not seen as the bad guy to some people, but then other people are like, this guy's the worst. So depth.
If you've read the novella, comment below what your thoughts are on Booker, because I'd love to hear what other people think. Because we definitely did a lot of reworking of his character. Like Darcy said, he was just like a horrible individual when we first did the first draft of the novella, before we had to do the rewrite to make the word count fit. And then like Darcy said, as we were diving into it, we realized like this just doesn't make sense. Like the core element of how he's in their life is as like a friend.
Yeah.
and they wouldn't be friends with somebody like this, and they also probably wouldn't have seen such a 180 of, like, how he acts. So, yeah,
Yeah.
it character development actually is, like, really beneficial because it makes you go back and ask those why questions and, like, dive into
Yeah.
it. If you haven't done character development, you have to go back and ask those questions, but if you've done it in advance, you can just be like, "Oh, yeah, he's this kind of person, so he would
Yeah.
respond this way," based on, like, actually knowing him, not just, like, a general stereotype.
Yeah. No, truly, because it's, uh, people the way we originally written Booker, people show those colors slowly, like,
Mhm.
little bits.
Mhm,
Like, if you're close friends with them, you're gonna see these pieces.
mhm.
So, Matilda would have never agreed to go on a date with him in the first place because she would have seen these red flags
Yeah.
already.
Yeah.
Um, and then layering your villains too.
Yeah.
Really fully developing your villains, I think, is a super important one. Um, Great example, Billy Hargrove from Stranger Things. Fully that character has so many layers. Every time I watch it, Chris has
Mhm.
to hear me gush about the layers of this character. Because if you look at him surface level, he's an abusive POS, right? He's a terrible person.
Mhm.
But if you pay attention to the small subtleties, like, that are in the character, not what he's saying or what he's doing, but these just small things that interact with how he's saying them and doing them, you start to see more. You would take surface level. He hates Max. He despises Max. He doesn't care about Max. Unsurface level, he drives Max everywhere, even when he's pissed off. He still waits for her when she's late, even though he tells her that he doesn't want to wait for her until that last time, but she wasn't going to come anyways. So, but he still waits for her. And in the end, like, when you get more of his character, you see that background. He's abused by his father, so he abuses
His stepfather.
Max. Yes. Well, no,
Yeah.
that's his dad. That's Max's stepdad.
Is it I thought it was his stepdad and Max's
N-
dad.
no, Max's mom, his dad.
Okay.
So,
Mm.
yeah.
Alright, alright.
But yeah, but,
I haven't seen it in a few years, so I'll defer to you.
yeah, so he's a character that's inherently humanly evil because he's not nice and he does these bad things. But if you look at the depth of the character, he does these things because he's acting out from a place of a child who is 18 years old who is hurting because of how he's been hurt. And that doesn't excuse him, but it makes him a deep character.
Right, and I think that's the difference too of, like, if you're wanting to write, like, a really good story, like, your characters have to feel real and relatable, but they also can't be so simplistic that you're like, "This is the bad guy, we hate him." Like,
Yeah.
if you can get someone to feel for your antagonist, like, that's when you've developed a really good antagonist. When you can make people go, "Oh, that's the protagonist?" Or like, "Oh, that's part of who they are?" That's when you know you've written a good protagonist. And not in the sense of like, "Where'd that come from? That was out of left field." But more of
Yeah.
like, "Oh, that's a character trait of this person, this character. You know, this is a
Yeah.
trait of them that's part of who they are." Like, because it's just it's nuanced, it's real. I mean,
Yeah.
none of us are like fully evil, fully good. Like we all have different elements in us of things we struggle with, things that we're great at, things that we are proud of, things that we're ashamed of. Like we have all these different elements to who we are as people. Why wouldn't a character, have that as well if they're supposed to
Yeah.
represent people?
Yeah, exactly. And that's definitely, like, the biggest, like, point in when you're character developing. You wanna make sure that you look at this person and you see a person and
Mm.
not a character on a page.
Or a plot device.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they can still be seen as a plot device, but plot
Even
devices
if
need to
you
have
need
depth.
them. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
They can't just
Because
be a stereotypical plot device.
yeah,
I
because
mean,
if
they
they're
can.
just a if they're just a plot device and there's no depth to them, everybody's
Mhm.
gonna see it. Like, if you're not wanting
Yeah.
them to look like a plot device, like, but they are just a plot device, you have to add depth to that character too, no matter how minor they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Um, oh, good.
I was gonna move on to the next portion of the
Same.
how we're doing it. Okay.
Yeah.
So how are we doing this, as a pantser and a planner? We're
Planning.
planning. That's the
Sorry,
angle we
guys.
went with.
Well, that's why you shared all that stuff about how does a pantser do this, because
Yes.
we're planning it and going through, and I've created some templates that we're working off of, that
Um,
yeah.
are they from, what's it called? Kill the cat? Don't kill the
Oh,
cat?
save the cat. Um, don't kill the cat, that's the opposite of what you wanna do.
My bad. Because
Um
you got your templates from somewhere specific, right?
I don't remember where I got some of it online. I don't remember where I got some of it. It was just like general questions to ask yourself. I pulled from a few sites and then I built out the rest of it based off of what I know from storytelling. Actually, I'll probably link it somewhere in the show notes or make it available online for people to snag if you want. It's just
That'd
a
be cool.
PDF download that you can use as a starting point. You don't have to use all of it. You can build off of it and add your own stuff to it, if there's things that your characters need or if it doesn't fit the world or the era that you're writing in. Like, it's really just
Yeah.
more of like a jumping off point or a building block. It's obviously not none of it is just like our IP exclusively. This is just kind of like something we've put together that is really helpful for like thinking through like some of the nitty-gritty questions that you wouldn't think through. Like, what is the character allergic to? Be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, does that matter? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe they're not
Mm.
allergic to anything."
Yeah.
You
I
know?
mean, po post-apocalyptic world, what are they allergic to? They might have a harder time finding food.
Yep, or finding
So,
medicine or yeah, all sorts of
yeah.
fun stuff. Yeah.
So, so we're doing in-depth planning. So
Mhm.
Lauren's created this sort of baseline for every character. So ages, date of birth, what
Mhm.
hair color, eye color, weight,
Yeah.
core characteristics, like just
Yeah.
the surface level things too of like jealous, stubborn, cranky, what are their biggest fears? But then it dives into like deeper things, like what's your biggest hurt
Mhm.
from your parents?
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, and you know, little things like how do you keep your house? Like where do you live?
Yeah. Yeah.
What's your
Yeah.
job?
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
so there's the basic breakdown of a character. So like the basic surface level of like how they look. Because you always got to know how your character looks, even if you
Right.
forget to write it into the book.
Like we
Um,
realized we did at one point in the
yeah.
novella. Totally not.
Knowing how your character looks can impact how your character interacts with a scene.
Yeah.
Um, and then we go from character looks to sort of like who they are within the character. So this is Save the Cat. So like, are they the caregiver? Are they the jokester? Are they the
Ooh, actually, I
that's
think
Save
I
the
got
Cat,
that
right?
from no, I think I got that from the Jungian archetype. I think is how you pronounce. I think it's called A Hero with a Thousand Faces is the book that maybe that's the book.
Okay.
Um, highly recommended book for anyone in storytelling, whether you're a writer, filmmaker, whatever. Hero with a Thousand
Um,
Faces.
yeah, because those were really great jumping off points for us too. Because
Yeah,
Matilda, we chose as the caregiver,
yeah,
which really is where we built the character around. Is that specific
mm-hmm,
like archetype?
yeah,
Um, so knowing that as well helps.
yeah,
Small things too, like we have an entire area that's just questions, and they're just like things that you might ask
yeah,
like a person that you're getting to know,
yeah,
like
yeah,
favorite colors, favorite
yep,
food, do you have any pets? Like,
yeah,
and it might seem silly, like some of the stuff, like one was like, how old were you when you learned to ride a bike? Like
yeah,
that might seem silly, but imagine you have a scene that you come across later on in your story where the characters have to get somewhere, but they don't have a car. What are you
yeah,
going to give them to get there?
yeah,
You can give them rollerblades. Maybe they never learned how to ride a bike, but they know how to rollerblade.
yeah,
Maybe they only have a bike, they never learned how to ride a bike, and you get to have a really funny scene about them trying to
yeah,
figure out how to ride this bike.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
um,
We can also
so
change it too. Like if, instead of like when did they learn to ride a bike, maybe you're writing a western. And it's like when did they first learn to ride a horse? And it was like they were 3 weeks old when their parents jumped on the saddle with them, kind of thing. They grew, and that tells you so much about them. Like their family was around horses, they grew up around like that element. Or maybe it's like you do something of like when did they first learn to ride a horse when they were 8, and the horse bucked them off and they broke their arm and they've been terrified of horses since. And it's like that's an
yeah,
interesting element to add to it. Or it turns into like when did they learn to drive a car or a motorcycle or like you can change it to whatever fits your world or a dragon or
yeah,
but it's like that tells you so much too about a character because they're not just like some of them are just like interesting getting to know you moments, but there's also the elements of like these are also pivotal moments in someone's life. It's like when you learn to do something is when you have an opportunity to fail because you've never done it before. And it's like how do you respond to that failure? Do you jump back
Yeah.
up? You as the character, like does the character jump back up? Do they throw a tantrum? Does somebody swoop in and fix it for them? Like what's their world like? Cuz like that's the bigger thing.
And that also builds, like, for situations later on. So, like, say you have a
Mhm.
character who has somebody who always swoops in and fixes
Yeah.
it for them,
Who could that be?
and then eventually they end up in a situation where they have to fix it themselves, and they don't know
Mhm.
how.
Yeah.
Um, and that can affect, like, everyday things too. Like,
Mhm.
if somebody's always fixing everything for somebody, they're not gonna know how to fix anything,
Yeah.
because it's always been done for them. So that's,
Right.
like, a huge ploy on, like, who that character is gonna be and how they're going to
Yes.
interact with the world.
Yeah. And that I mean, that would be a character trait too. I would put a character trait of entitlement around
Yeah,
like, as like maybe like a buzzword character trait would be entitled. It's like they just
yeah,
look at the world as like everyone should be doing things for me. Like why doesn't this person and so when they that gives you a
yeah,
really good opportunity to run into a challenge. It's like what happens when
yes,
you have a character who expects everyone to do everything for them and a character who's like a helper caregiver character who wants to do things for people. Well, now you think, "Oh, that just works in life. The person who wants someone to do everything for them gets everything taken care of and the one who wants to take care of things takes care of that person." But what happens below that is that this person continues to get older but never grows up. And this person continues to get older and gets more resentful of all of the stuff that they have to do like it goes from wanting to having to do. And now you've got
yeah,
this really heavy tension and this like volcano that's building underneath them ready to burst at some point. And that gives you so much great stuff to play with, whether that's
yeah,
a side character or your main character.
yeah, and, that helps too, like, as, Lauren was saying, where you're building in the story,
Hmm.
because you need to know where your character starts
Yeah.
and where you want your character to end.
Yeah.
So, if you want your character to start out as entitled, but then they learn how to not be entitled and they
Yeah.
become the caregiver, you need to
Yeah.
know that when you start, or else
Yeah.
you're not gonna write that character in the right direction.
Right. And so I think too, if you look at like that's one of the things that Marvel did really well for their like phase 1 through 3 or 4 or whatever when they wrapped up with the last Avengers movie, Endgame,
Yeah.
was that like
Endgame.
Tony Stark's character went from this narcissistic playboy that was only ever out for his own pleasure and his own self to the one who made the self-sacrifice at the end. And Captain America's character started off as the self-sacrificial, all-American good boy kind of vibe, neighbor next door vibe, and ended with being like, I did my duty. I'm stepping back. I'm going to pursue the
Yeah.
life I actually wanted. And
He
yeah,
he learned how to be selfish, which
yeah, yeah.
selfish
Yeah. He
has
learned.
negative connotations, but it's not a bad word.
Or like he set a boundary. He said,
Yeah.
I've served my country, I've served the world, I've served. It's time for someone else to take up the mantle and step back and pursue the life that I've actually wanted, that I put on hold this whole time to do those things.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think there's just like, that's the really interesting part of like character growth. And like you're saying, of like, if you have a character who's super entitled and your goal is to tell their story of how they grow to become someone who's, selfless or a caregiver, it's like, now you need these situations like now maybe their significant other, this other person in their life can't be a caregiver. Maybe they need to be someone else, or maybe they're a caregiver, but they're so many years into the story already that they explode early on and they leave and now they're gone. And now this person has to, what I'm saying? Like it
Yeah.
informs so much of the story you're telling. But
So
if you don't
much.
know that, any of this stuff about your character, you're just like, explosive scene. I don't know where we're
Yeah.
going from here.
And you also, like, need to know, like, your character's biggest fears and dreams when you first start too.
Yeah.
That's one of the ones, because dreams obviously, like, they change in life, which that is gonna be a big thing. Like, if your character has this big dream of where they want their life to go, but then these situations keep happening, they're gonna have to reevaluate their core values and where they wanna be.
Hmm.
Um Biggest fears, I mean, that's kinda that one, lends itself basically. You use their biggest fears against them. I mean, that's a great, or you don't even have to, which is, like, another really beautiful thing. So, like, knowing somebody's biggest fear doesn't mean that you're gonna use that in the story as, like, a situation that they get stuck in, but you can use that in the story as a situation they constantly try to avoid, which then puts them in other situations that cause issues.
Yeah, it's a motivation.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of really great things to dive into when it comes to character development. I mean, we've got the shard of glass, if you guys are familiar with that. We've got the different personality type quiz things of just being like, what's their Enneagram type, Myers Briggs type, you know, like all these different CIRD, CD, DCIS, DCIS, disc. Oh, disc. There we go.
I can't
I
help.
was
I don't
like,
know
it's 4 letters. There's a D and an I in there.
it. Something.
Golly. Yeah. Yeah. So there's all these different things that you can do. Whether you use the resource that we've got available that we'll share with everybody, or if you use some other resources that are online, like there's so many options. And really just setting aside that time, it's going to feel not boring, but that's the word that comes to mind. Like it's going to feel too slow. It's going to feel like homework probably, because that's how it felt like for me, at least. You know, for some people, it's probably going to feel like homework. So you're like, oh, I just want to get in and write the story and make people feel things. But
Yeah.
it's like knowing this stuff as you go before you go into the story is going to make it so much more impactful, and it's going to make
Yeah.
navigating the story a lot easier because you're going to have a roadmap.
Yeah.
So,
Um, and some like things that you want to keep in mind too when you're writing your character developing and you're writing your story. Sometimes you'll write these characters and you'll have them fully fleshed out, and as you tell the story, those characters are different than what you originally wrote. That happens all the time because maybe you took a turn
Pantser.
at some. Yeah.
No,
Maybe you
it's
took
good.
a
It's
turn
good.
at some point. Maybe you took a turn at some point in the story and you didn't realize that this would change
Hmm.
the character the
Yeah.
way it does.
Yeah.
Um, so the character Bible is there to help you have these deep characters, but the character Bible is also there to be changed. Like, say you're halfway through the novel and there's something that you now want to add into it, but there's not, but it's has to come from like the history of the character, and you won't have something in the character Bible for that.
Mhm.
You can totally jump out of the story really quick, figure out exactly where that plays into who they are as a person,
Mhm.
and on your next read through, you write your scenes that you need to write for
Mhm.
your draft, but then on your next read through, you can sprinkle it in throughout the story that way.
Mhm.
So it's not like
Yeah.
the end all be all. Like it can be changing.
Yeah, it's a living document. It's meant to be, updated and changed. I would say like it's also supposed to be well enough fleshed out that it gives you the place to jump from and grow from as a character. It's not necessarily like if you like hopefully you're not like that. Your character's not like that by the end of the story, right? Like it's just more of like informing you along the way. So yeah, like Darcy's saying, if you find a that your character all of a sudden is allergic to shellfish and shrimp and peanuts, then you're like, okay, well, I'm gonna go through and throw that back in there. Or like you find out that they actually secretly are in love with their best friend's sister, what I don't know. I'm just making stuff up on the fly here.
Yeah.
Like things develop as you're writing, whether as a pantser or a planner, like things are just developing as and coming to you. You can go back and reference it, and it's a really good reference point to be like, does this still line up with who the character is or who the character is growing into be? And if it doesn't, why? And then wrestling through that, which will give you a better understanding of the character going forward. And either it's because it's not something you've added yet, or it's a discrepancy in who you said the character was, and you do actually have to fix and change that in the story, kind of a
Yeah.
thing. But it's the wrestling through, like being curious and trying to figure that part out that's really helpful.
Yeah. And I think too, from a pantser's point of view, even if you don't want to plan, and you don't want to do all this extra character development, having like a document where as you're going through, if something comes up, writing that's like a core character trait that you find, writing it down in just like a blank document. It doesn't have to be outlined. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. You just write it down like this character is allergic to shellfish because it just came up like 5 chapters
Mhm.
in. That helps you when you go back to your next draft to then have something to sprinkle in throughout the story to add that depth in later,
Mhm.
which is
Yeah.
super
Yeah.
important.
Or you can just download the free resource we're going to share out and then fill it in as you feel like.
Yes, that is true.
There you go.
um, do you think there's anything else that they should, like, any pitfalls or things to keep in mind when you're?
I think we've gone over quite a bit, honestly. Yeah, I think we're good. I think that's a lot of info.
It
Yeah,
is a
share
lot
in
of
the
info.
comments below, like what your thoughts are on all of that. If you're a pantser or a planner, let us know how you feel about all of this structure.
How do you do
um,
your character developing? I'd love to
yeah,
know.
yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
think
Is there something that we forgot to mention? We focused a lot on
um,
allergies.
we did focus a lot on allergies. When you look at yourself as who you are as a person and what
Mhm.
made you who you are and how you
Yeah.
react to situations, take
Mhm.
that and put it for them on paper.
Mhm. Yeah.
It'll help you know the characters so that, especially if you're writing first person, because you wanna know that character's brain inside and
Yeah.
out because we're in the brain with you. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
um,
and one other thing too, that goes off what you're saying of like you have to have an element of self-awareness too about
yeah,
yourself to be able like, how did I get here? What happened in life? There's a book called Emotionally Healthy Relationships, I believe is what it's called. And it kind of goes through some of this actually. It's about learning how to like look back on who you are and what formed you, like relationships and how you tackle things, how you feel about things. And there might be some questions in there that like if you want to dive deeper into like learning character development, but also being like, I think it'd be cool to like learn more about myself and that will help inform that. If you're more of like, I don't know if you would call it method writing. If you're like a method, you want to
method
do it
writing.
and then write it kind of a thing, like that might help too.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's just asking those questions and being curious.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing is just be curious about your character.
Mm,
You
yeah.
wanna get to know them so that your audience wants to get to know them.
Yeah. Yeah. We won't, as a
So,
reader, I don't know what you're thinking. I only know what
yeah,
you've put on the page. So, yeah.
and as a writer, sometimes the hardest thing is remembering that you're writing this for other people to
Yeah.
understand, not just
Yeah.
for yourself.
Yup. Yeah. They don't have
Yeah.
an inside look into your brain.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So,
Um, okay,
yeah, I
so
think
what's
that's
the,
about it.
free resource you were talking about?
Oh yeah, I'll drop the character development template that we use. You can look in the show notes, find it there most likely. I'll make another note about it if it's not in the show notes if I haven't figured that part out yet. But yeah, just a free resource PDF that you guys can use pieces of it. Again, it's not like our own intellectual property or anything. We just kind of compiled stuff that makes sense for our brains from developing characters.
Just a great place to jump off. If you do have any comments about the free resource or you want to share any of your character development tips and tricks
Yeah,
or any of the websites that you use to build out your characters, you can find us Misty Morning Stories or Untitled Working Podcast on Instagram. You can also find us on TikTok under Untitled Working Podcast. The YouTube account is Misty Morning Stories. And then we also have an email. Honestly, if you don't want to do it on social media and you're more of a private person, because that's totally understandable, especially if you're talking about your book, feel free to email us at untitledworkingpodcast@gmail.com. And we would absolutely love to hear from all of you
yeah.
about anything.
Yes. Yeah. No, it'd be great to hear from people. Keep us posted on how your guys' works in progress are going. And then hopefully next time you see us, we'll have an awesome guest on that gets to share some more of the business writers' insights, since that's going to be
Very
the
exciting.
focal point of this season. Yeah, I'm
Yes,
excited.
I'm excited for this guest. So
Yes.
I
Yeah, yeah,
think it'll
yeah.
be awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I guess there's only one thing left to leave you guys with, and you know what they say.
What did they say,
Everybody's a work in
Darcy?
progress.
Oh,
It's a process.
it is.
It is. So
All
we'll
right.
see you guys next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.